Hi, I'm Chad Griffiths. The sun's going to be peeking through soon, and it is 5:15 in the morning. Take a sip. And get ready for our last section on late night philosophy. On the final one, we're going to be discussing psychological egoism. Now, I actually have a really good grasp on this one because we talked about it a lot during class. Here are the notes. We didn't even go over it in the review session, which is a side bit of notes I've been using, because we understand it so well. So, the concept of psychological egoism, the basic assumption is that we, being humans, are always ultimately motivated by self-interest. And there's some things to focus on there. There's the word always. That means if you can find a single instance where you can prove that someone was not motivated by self-interest, then psychological egoism has to be untrue. It says that we are ultimately motivated by it. We talked about finality with Aristotle and his belief in the final good. Finality is a big deal in philosophy. It means that it is our final motivation. We may have lesser motivations that lead up to it, but in the end, it is always self-interest, which is why we make decisions. It is our motivated. We are motivated by it means that it is our driving force. It is why we do what we do. And self-interest, well, simply put, it's looking out for number one, because we have the curse of only being able to have our own perception, for the most part, and therefore, as a result, technically we're only sure that we ourselves are real. That's I think, therefore I am. Even Kant's a little nod there, even though we didn't really talk about it in class. But yeah, that's the point, is that it's a doctrine about humanity in absolutely all instances. This is a very wide-reaching theory. What it says is really quite crucial to understanding humanity itself, if it's true. So, it's a claim about the very nature of humans themselves. It comes from the concept of what we think controls our actions, our mind, isn't actually always what controls it. We can think we're doing something for a reason. We can even say out loud we're doing something for a certain reason. But psychology and a lot of other things actually seem to point to we're not always telling the truth. And sometimes we don't even mean to lie. This argues we're not just lying to others. We're lying to ourselves. And that's the idea of psychological egoism. It's quite cynical, in a way. It says that there's no such thing as altruism. Well, that's the perfect transition to explaining what psychological altruism is. Well, it's about motives. And just like psychological egoism, it's about motives, but it's completely different, because what altruism says is sometimes we are ultimately motivated by the condition, interests, or welfare of another. Now, there's a key word there too. That's sometimes. A lot of people think that the difference between psychological egoism and altruism is that altruists argue that every time we're motivated by the other person's interests, welfare, and condition. And psychological egoists argue that we're never motivated. Well, the first one's true. Psychological egoists do believe that we're never motivated by it. We are always motivated by self-interest. But there's something called the self-interest scale. So, basically, to believe in altruism, all you have to do is say, you make decisions at some point on the scale. There can be times when you make them because of purely egoistic motives. And there can be times when you make them out of slightly altruistic motives, really altruistic motives, or, the altruist argues, even completely altruistic motives. But, and this is the key part, it does not argue that we always make them out of altruistic motives. That's pretty easily disproven, actually. There's good examples, which is why that's not what it argues, so don't make that mistake. That is psychological egoism and altruism to start. So now let's move on to the moral significance of psychological egoism. Why does this matter? Why is it so important if this theory is correct and psychological egoism is true? What's at stake, morally and personally, for us when it comes to this debate? Well, it kind of alters our moral self-identity, who we see ourselves to be. There's the argument of mirror neurons, that seeing someone is hurts you. It's one of the theories for why we have empathy, why we have compassion, is our ability to feel what others are feeling, to use a colloquialism, to walk a mile in their shoes. Now, if psychological egoism is true, not only does it alter our moral self-identity in that we have to accept that we don't really do things for the reasons we say we do, but on top of that, if psychological egoism is true, it kind of encourages selfish behavior. Because if the ultimate argument is that everything is self-motivated, then psychological egoism says, why bother pretending? Just be selfish. Give in to your selfish desires. You can still do good, sure, but accept that good, ultimately, it's for you, not for them. No, it's great. It's a great feeling to help people, but psychological egoists, that's sort of part of their point, is it is a great feeling to help people, and whether that's because of mirror neurons, whether that's because of something else, something we haven't explained yet, or something that is explained in psychological literature, it does genuinely feel good to help people. And therefore, the psychological egoist says, you can't really trust that, because even if you say you're just doing it to help them, well, I mean, it makes you feel good to help them. You want to feel good, so you help. They don't blame you. They say, this is natural, this is completely human, but they still say that 100% you're doing it because of that. There's some other possible egoistic motives. There's reputation enhancement, there's the idea of reciprocity, that you help them, they'll help you. Feeling of moral self-satisfaction, that's the good feeling. Guilt avoidance, avoiding social sanction, avoiding punishment. There's ideas of your legacy, possible punishments or rewards in the afterlife, and just, in general, pleasure of some kind. These are all possible egoistic motives that might explain a seemingly altruistic act. And that's sort of the key to psychological egoism, is it's not saying that, it's saying that in all cases that's what's ultimately motivated by, but the reason why it's so hard to disprove is because it's just saying that this is a possibility. And it's pretty hard to disprove a possibility for an action. It basically means you have to find an action that you can, for 100% certainty, prove is motivated by absolutely no selfish benefits. And the fact that just doing good makes us feel good makes that pretty much near impossible, which is why psychological egoism has lasted this long. Finally, the final reason why we should really care if psychological egoism is true is because if it is true, then it sort of makes compassion, sympathy, and empathy impossible. You can say you're feeling those things, but in reality, what you're actually feeling is a desire to, for your own selfish reasons, because in the end, egoism is all about being self-serving, for your own selfish reasons, deciding to help this person or this thing. It can be for animals too. So, therefore, psychological egoism, if it's true, says, stop pretending, embrace it. And if we accept that, it really does change how we act in our day-to-day lives. Something to consider. Alright, before I move on to the next, we're almost at 10 minutes, so I'm going to break this into two parts. I'm Chad Griffiths. Thank you for joining me on the spiral into insanity, sleep, and the unknown. And I'll see you next time.